I'm Max Kaplan, and this is the Appalachian Creative Podcast, Episode 11.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Appalachian Creative Podcast. I'm here with Max Kaplan. Max Kaplan is joining us from just outside of Columbus, Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. Max, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I originally hail from Dayton, Ohio. I went to school in Athens, and now I'm back in Columbus. I'm an independent filmmaker. I write, direct, and produce mostly short films and documentaries right now, but trying to branch into narrative feature films in the near future, hopefully some theater releases and things like that.
Awesome.
Right
I know you sent over some tidbits from your upcoming film. I'm excited to get into that here a little bit later. You actually hit on something that I want to ask you a little bit more about, that independent filmmaking. Because I'm sure you're not shooting by yourself. So in your opinion, what makes you an independent filmmaker?
Just the fact that there's not a lot of money behind me, no big company or corporation. Like, I'm not working for Disney or anything like that, or Netflix.
Preach.
Yeah.
Preach. Big money behind you.
It started out of necessity because I'm from Dayton, and, I could only do what I could do in that, little Midwestern city. But as I grew into being a better filmmaker, kind of knowing more about it, I realized, you don't have to go to Hollywood and New York and stuff. And I actually grew to like this as my home and my workplace, just the Midwest in general. And I've met so many great, talented people here that I work with again and again. Many of the people in the credits of that movie you guys watched have worked with me on other films before. And I just think there's no reason to travel to where people say opportunity is. You can kind of create opportunity for yourself and those around you if there's a will and, there's going to be a way.
Certainly.
So I appreciate independent filmmaking for the freedom it allows me, but also it's more of a challenge because, a different challenge than trying to go work your way up in Hollywood or whatever. You got to do everything from scratch yourself. And I actually enjoy that probably more than just getting handed a check and saying, go make something in the next 6 months.
Something I've mentioned to Carson a few times in our conversations, you don't have to recreate the Hollywood shot. In my opinion, I like faking the Hollywood shot. What can I do with what I've got that is going to give that same look and feel, but on a much smaller budget, on a much smaller crew. And so I really enjoy the challenges that are faced in, kind of faking it till you make it.
Yeah.
Now, Jacob, you're a little bit of our filmmaker, in-house filmmaker here.
I try to be. I try to make films.
What questions do you have for Max?
So I was going through Looker, and there was a couple of things that caught my eye. First of all, the way that you actually open up the at least the treatment that you sent us with that pull out from the eye. Can you tell me how you filmed that? Because looked kind of like a probe lens, but it didn't feel like a probe lens, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it was a probe lens, and ever since that thing came out, I don't know when, mid-2010s or something, I saw it all over, social media and stuff, and I was like, wow, that's awesome, super expensive, wasn't a lot of them around, and had the opportunity through the gear rental house to get one.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, dang, that's awesome. Okay, let's get it. And then I incorporated that into the visual language of the film. How, being able to get really close into the pupil and iris of an eye was really, really cool. And then we decided to just keep using it since we had it. So anytime we were a little bit ahead of schedule, if we were in a scene, my DP Sam would be like, Max, you want to, whip out the probe, and just do something.
So then I noticed in that shot there was a really crisp eye. Most probes have that light on the end of it. Is that how you use that, or is that what's giving us that motivated light?
So the probe lens is fully open, like an f/16 aperture. So you need a ton of light. So we actually had, I think, a whole set or a set and a half of quasar tubes all around that one setup just to match the low light of the rest of the opening scene, which we shot on like, I don't know, 35 or 24 millimeter. But you know, there was just a lamp and some street light coming through like the window, very, very little lighting.
Yeah.
Oh, and the makeup mirror light. But to replicate that makeup mirror light without just relying on the little circle, because that would have, you know,
Right.
you would have been able to tell that was cheap. So I have a picture of all these lights that we actually built around the actress. We had her sit down first and then just brought in tubes until we got the light to match.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know Quasar tubes are not cheap. Did your DP supply most of this? Is this self-funded? Is this rental house? How'd you kind of build out the set?
Yes, so Looker was my thesis film at Ohio University from film school. So I kind of went balls to the wall with funding, and I applied for grants. I wrote letters to previous people that had like supported me, and like, you know, along the way of learning to be a filmmaker and starting my career, and also ran a crowdfunding campaign, although that was like the smallest portion of it, and was able to raise the biggest budget I've had so far. I think the final number was something around $17,000,
Nice.
which is like 5 times the amount I've ever worked with before. So I just really wanted to be well prepared, and not have to be as scrappy as I'd been before, making stuff for $0, and also like relying less on just like the generosity of people, and, you know, asking for favors. Like, you want to be able to give them something in some way, and especially
Now, in Ohio, I know something we're fortunate with in West Virginia. You know, whenever you need a place to shoot, you can go into a business and you can, you know, ask, "Hey, can I shoot here?"
Yeah.
Did you have any luck? You know, just asking random businesses, "Hey, what do you got?"
Yeah, actually, the apartment where most of the film takes place, something like 65% of the film is in the antagonist's apartment. That was an Airbnb, and we searched far and wide for something that could be kind of like a bougie, like bachelor pad, basically. And that was the best thing we could find. We needed a fireplace because that was like an important part of the lighting scheme of the whole second half of the film.
It's also, you know, the tool was kind of important.
Right, the fire poker is an important prop. But yeah, we found this. A lot of places say no just because they don't want a film crew, and you know, they're like, we just want somebody that's on vacation, staying a couple days. So, but there was one guy that was really, really excited by the fact his house was going to be in a movie, and I told him, I was like, "There's going to be a lot of people in here. There might be some damage. We might get some fake blood some places." And I think we did ruin a couple pillows and some of his towels, but he was super happy to have us and cut us a great deal. And same with the bar scene. There's a little montage at the beginning. I called the fun and games.
So that's actually
That was a really So that's one we wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, so that scene itself, I want to know how you shot that, because for one, it looks like a time lapse or at least fast forwarded, and I want to know if you decided to. Did you have like a chest mount, you know, that you actually put onto the talent, or did you have to kind of jerry rig something together, something like that?
Use a rope to keep that distance.
It was a jerry rigged snorri cam. So I was inspired by the shot from Mad Max, the new one, like Fury Road, and he's like running, and he's got the camera strapped to him.
Yeah.
And I looked that up. It's called a snorri cam. There wasn't one to rent like anywhere near here, so we decided to build one, and we used a shoulder mount for a DSLR, the type that clamps over your shoulder and pushes against your stomach.
Yeah.
And then I think we used like spare DSLR like straps, and we tied them around for extra support around her waist. And then we actually, that white jacket wasn't a part of her wardrobe. She was just supposed to be in that black dress the whole time, except for her unicorn shirt. And I can talk more about the unicorns later. But yeah, so we added this white jacket to her wardrobe so that we could cover up the shoulder thing. And then, yeah, we just had her go out with Christine's the main actress, plays Anna, and Olivia was playing Marissa. And I just, you know, strapped them in. I said, "Here's my credit card." And they went to the bar for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes.
So they're actually at the bar?
Yeah, they're actually at the bar interacting with people.
Practical filmmaking, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
And the reason why the montage ended up being sped up that way was...
So it was sped up. It was not a time lapse.
It's like something like 300%. And we messed with the shutter a little bit too, kind of keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
But the point was to blur anyone that wasn't still, you know, over many periods of frame. So since she's kind of locked in the middle of the frame, her face isn't going to be too blurry, but anybody else over her shoulders, as long as she's moving around, is not going to be able to be seen, which saved my production manager so much time handing out release forms. And who knows if everybody's going to sign them. I mean, these are like probably drunk people at a bar.
Well, then how many beers do you have to buy?
Right.
That adds up, I'm sure, in a Columbus bar.
So it was practical, but it also looked cool, and I think it turned out great.
It did. It was kind of that attention grab at the beginning of the movie, or at least the treatment. You know, I don't know what the full. Is this going to be a narrative?
That is,
feature?
99. No, that's just a short film.
Okay.
I wanted to make a feature for my thesis, but I was talked out of it at the last minute by one of my professors I really respect. But this was just something I wanted to prove that I could make a really tight horror fantasy film with what we've got around here. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully just use this to show people, like, look what we can make. Imagine what we could make, in 60 minutes or 90 minutes of runtime.
What was your primary role on it?
I co-wrote, I directed, helped produce, and edited Looker.
Awesome. Now, you did mention a little bit about in the funding that you were able to apply for grants and things like that. You care to share a little bit about your experience with that?
Yeah, I feel like and this is something that I really feel like I got the most out of film school with. Like, learning how to write grants is an art form in itself, and normally it's really not an option for independent filmmakers just because they don't know how to write a grant. I mean, sure, there's the guidelines there, but there's also kind of like unwritten rules to the world of grants that you need to adhere to before they'll even kind of consider your application. Some tips I've learned is really any project can be fit into a grant. All it takes is like language, like twisting language around. There's going to be kind of guidelines that they have. They want to focus, on some kind of particular project in some area. And sometimes you're just locked out. Like, okay, that's a grant for New York. I'm not going to, apply for that. But sometimes, if it's an emergency grant, I think I got an emergency grant for this one by saying I didn't get this other grant I was expecting, which was true. And we, aren't going to be able to pay for food for like one of the production days or something like that. And then, that ended up making us qualify. You just have to kind of like figure out how you fit into the grant and parrot their language back to them, which sounds like so.
It's exactly how you get a job, though.
Yeah.
You read the job description.
You have to be willing to hear no. You have to be willing to ask for something that you're probably not going to get.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, like, the no's hurt. Like, I lost a huge one for this Looker. And, that was rough. But I knew, like, okay, I got to come up with that amount of dollars some other way, and that's part of the independent spirit, is just like scrapping to find how you can make it to the next day.
So I recently attended the capstone screenings at Marshall, and something that they brought up as their biggest challenge was the craft services.
Gotta pay. You gotta feed your people.
Yeah, what kind of food you have on set?
Oh my gosh, we had the best caterer. She was a mom of a student in the film school, Mrs. Teresa Dorado. She's amazing. She cooked. I believe it was like Thai. We had like Thai food catering, and she made it all at home. And my producer would go and pick it up, or my assistant director, and we had like this amazing catered food every day. And because I wasn't paying everybody, I knew I had to like,
feed them well.
Splurge on food. So she gave me like a couple options. There was like a cheap option, an expensive option, and the mid-tier. And I was like, let's go for the mid-tier. And honestly, it was like probably, one of the things in the budget I spent the most on in terms of production was actually for the food. But it was worth it because everybody looked forward to getting to lunch. Not like
they're long days. And so like the amount of energy that it takes when you're carrying heavy lights and heavy stands, it's important.
Yeah, and it was healthy too, which everybody appreciated.
I had a shoot. I've said this story on the podcast before, but I had a shoot. My first short film, period, was a narrative, and it was a war movie. So there were guns, and we had to make it look like we were overseas and stuff like that. And we were out in the woods. It was 40. Call time was 5 a.m. Out a mile from where we're going to shoot. We had to hump all our gear into the woods, down these trails, and we were shooting all day. And at about 11:30, I was like, oh my God, I can't get pizza up here. Because of course I'm broke. I'm like, I'm just trying to make a movie, but I got to feed my people. So Little Caesars, shout out,
Yeah.
And I was like, we're behind schedule for one, which you always are on a film set. And then two, I couldn't get the food from the parking lot to where we're shooting. And I said, listen, if everyone can bear with me, then I promise I'll buy everybody like a nice dinner. And we, ever since then, Jerry said that's the first thing he accounts for on a set. And ever since then, I'm like, I got to make sure there's a way for people to eat.
Yeah.
My wife makes sure there's a sandwich and something whenever I'm leaving for a shoot because she knows how tired I'm going to be at the end of the day.
And then when you're working, you just don't I don't think about eating when I'm working. When I'm directing, I'm like locked in.
I've got a job to do. I'm here to do that job. And for me to commit resources mentally to a menu, I've already made 1,000 choices today. I don't know that I'm making any others.
So Max, a lot of directors especially have kind of signature shots, trademark shots. You know, there's of course like the Kubrick stare, and then there's the Nolan's back to the camera, stuff like that. But like in my own journey as a director, I've kind of given myself, I found what I like, and I've kind of made that my thing, right? In every movie I'll have this particular shot. For me, I really like super low aperture, very creamy bokeh, and also a lot of handheld shots. I like that movement, so like those are kind of basic. But yours, what I actually noticed a lot about when comparing Looker to your YouTube channel, it seems like you like lighting. You like messing with the RGB. You like messing with the different color temperatures and stuff like that. If that's true, tell me a little bit about how you kind of stumbled upon that and started. Because a lot of people, especially newer filmmakers, I feel like will try to recreate something exactly, right? Like I want it to look as natural as possible, maybe a little bit of Rembrandt lighting, and that's it. But you, especially in Looker, I mean, there's a lot of reds, a lot of kind of RGB looking lighting. So how'd you get into that? Is that kind of your thing that you like to do? Or
certainly, I mean, I love all the different. I mean, in film, you're just playing with lighting. I mean, that's all.
That's all video is. Yes.
So I feel disappointed for filmmakers that don't pay enough attention to lighting. Not that I even know the most about it technically, but in film school, you're kind of given all these new ideas and things that you never knew before. And I just treat it like arrows in my quiver, if that's like, a good analogy.
I mean, right now, what's on screen, and I'm just going to let it play, is we just went from when he was talking with the trunk open and he had that half light. And then we just tracked some headlights down a dark road. All you saw was the headlights. Like that's a super cool way to shoot it. And the headlights, maybe you couldn't light a whole quarter-mile stretch of road.
Yeah, we could.
But it looked cool, and it went along with the theme of the lighting theme of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, going for what you can do, obviously, like that road shot, we were like, all we can do is light it with the headlights, and we're like, let's do it. And it just so happened to be behind some trees, which when you're seeing it on the big screen, it's not super visible on a small one, but like there's all these tree branches crossing in front of the lights, kind of breaking it up. It's got a really like evil atmosphere to it, and it's where the tone of the film really changes as well. So I love playing with contrast, kind of like high brights and low darks
For sure.
There's a lot of shots in this movie where I purposely let it get dark. Kind of later on, especially in the bedroom scene, where there's just a single source of lighting. I think most of the living room stuff is a single source with that fireplace as well. And just allowing there to be shadows and like things that you can't totally see, because that's how real life is. Like you can't see everything. I can't see what's over in that wall because it's just black. And that's natural. And you can use that to kind of create contrast. You don't want to be able to see everything. You want to have like a big, stark difference between certain areas of the frame. But yeah, so color is huge for me too. I think color is something you can use to tell a story, in ways that like words can't describe or like a scene can't play out in. Like, so when me and my DP went into prep on this, we chose like 3 colors, I think, that were going to represent what we were doing. It was like red, for like this, kind of like violent, deep, dark tone, and then this sickening green and like old mustard yellow. And those were kind of representing the monstrous aspects of some of these characters, the vices, vanity, things like that. So those were definitely very intentional going in, and we tried to see where and when in the timeline of the film we could insert that into the design. But also, a lot of this lighting was totally out of my control because I wanted to have many long takes in this. I didn't want many shots for, it's only like 12 minutes or so.
Were you the editor?
Yeah, I was.
Is that why you didn't want a bunch of long takes?
Well, I had made many films before where I just overshoot. There's just so much I want to do. I see so many possibilities on set, and I forget to edit myself. Or maybe
So
I
much
can't
coverage.
edit myself. Yeah.
One of the things that I have enjoyed about my, you talked about the lighting and how that, that's how life is, right? The darks you can't quite see and stuff like that. And then you're also the editor. My first movie, where it's a narrative, you have a little bit more of a chance to play around with that kind of stuff. I used in the battle scene, I wanted him to be alive, right? I wanted he feels the most at life when he's in battle. So, it's outdoors, and you, I'm sure, know how hard it is to light a outdoor scene correctly. So we didn't use any lighting. We had a flag and some scrims and stuff for some more close shots, but for the most part, we were just out. We got lucky with an overcast sky, and we were under foliage and stuff. But in post, I was like, how can I make this different than everything else? I want him to be. He's alive here. So during all the scenes in the battle scene where he's not hurt or dying or whatever, I doubled up on a LUT. I did my Rec 709, and then I doubled up on it to make it super highly saturated, and it was all very equal. And then I keyframed, he gets blown up and he kind of loses consciousness, and I keyframed it down so it just went into a normal Rec 709 with a little bit of creative grade onto it. But were you able to, in post, was this an assignment?
I mean, technically, yeah, this is the one film I had to make my senior year to graduate with to kind of show the breadth of what I had learned and experienced at film school and just kind of put it all together in one sum. So
were you, when you were editing, was it I don't have time to, continue to color grade the scene. I really have to make, I got to get this done so I can turn it in on time, or did you kind of mess with it a little bit?
I'm not a colorist. The version you saw was colored by me. It's temporary. That's why I say it's only 95% done. The only difference will be the ending music track will be replaced with something new from my composer, and the color will be a little bit different. But we have used the same LUT from pre-production forward. So we did a couple of test shoots, developed a LUT from that we liked based on kind of those colors I was talking about, being intentional about including. And then we used that as a reference LUT on set. And then, so the version you saw is that LUT modified by me a little bit for color correction. And it worked really well in terms of representing to me what I was going to be getting from the final.
I felt like the color and the lighting really matched kind of the mood of the scenes that I stopped and kind of took notes on and stuff like that.
Well, I
can tell that
even in that, that the headlight scene, the car driving very brief, you can go a lot of different ways with the color in that frame. And I think by going with something a little bit unnatural, it helps to bring that feeling out. I'm a little uneasy. There's something not natural about this light right here. Like, I've saw headlights before. They've never looked like that. There's something off here. And so it kind of clues you in as a viewer. And I think that you've done a pretty good job of using lights to draw to the story. You're drawing the viewer's focus to what they need to see or what they don't need to see in the shadows and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what are you really going to look at in the woods? What we're worried about is kind of like this curvy road she's on with this shady dude in the middle of the woods, you know, at night. It changes that kind of fun party atmosphere that the first third of the movie has. Right. But back to the lights real quick. I didn't have control of it when we were in those inside settings as much because we pre-lit everything. I had a lighting team moving a day ahead of us, and they lit knowing our blocking. And that way we could save time on setups. We're not like stopping shooting, everybody flip worlds, you move all the light stands around so they're hidden again. We just had everything rigged up to ceilings or outside of windows and hidden in some way. And that way we could move very fast and we could do 360-degree shots without stopping and resetting for all that. So
shout out to this Airbnb for letting you mount lights and stuff on the wall and
right?
ceiling.
And my friend's house who was that like kind of after party scene after the bars there too. The bar lighting was just what it was in there. It happened to work well with our LUT.
And what I've found, we watched a movie at Mountain Craft Film Festival in the bar, Beatdown. And it was kind of lit pretty naturally too. I feel like bars, that's kind of they have a vibe that they want to convey. So like, don't mess with that lighting too much. If you can see your talent and you can do everything in camera instead of pumping a bunch of light in, then I think it looks great.
Yeah. I like frames of movies and pictures that like make you look to, and obviously like the whole point of the movie is about looking, right? So, back to the darkness thing. Like I just like your eye being able to shift around and be looking for something. And if you can see everything, it's a little less mysterious that way.
So you've mentioned that you have quite a bit of crew. You have a lighting team, you have a DP, you had a caterer, you had so there's one scene, there's actually a couple scenes, but there's one that I'm going to show just due to YouTube guidelines, that sometimes feels a little bit more intimate before I think he comes out as the antagonist, right? Uh-huh. And then there's times where there are pretty violent scenes, right? So did you have someone like a intimacy coordinator or maybe a stunt coordinator that helped with the more action-packed scenes? Sure. Because I know a lot of times in independent film, those are some positions that might not get filled just for budgetary reasons. But I also know that like yours looked really good, and it seemed like that there might have been some guidance behind the camera.
We didn't have either of those things on set. I did kind of talk with intimacy coordinators before the film from the school, and that was a thing that they made a point to teach us about probably about halfway through. So everybody in the film school has some kind of experience with how to do that. Yeah. And then the fighting, this is a violent movie. I wrote it. It's crazy. And I never thought I would have to teach somebody how to hit somebody or react like they're getting hit with a fire poker.
Was it a real fire poker or was it a prop fire poker?
Oh, we had several. We had like a wooden one. We had a plastic one. We had a metal one. And we get to the day to film that. And it's like my actor, Porter, who's a non-actor, by the way. He's just like a carpenter, woodworker guy who's friends with one of my brothers. And I couldn't find an actor in time. I had my actor I had in place drop out and couldn't find anyone. And I thought, my friend Porter's got a vibe. Like he could fill this role, I bet. And he was interested. But we had to do his audition 7 times before I could like show it to people without being like, this is a huge mistake. But he was very willing. He was super excited. And he definitely had the look and the vibe of Cooper. But we get to that scene and I'm like, okay, so she's just hitting you with like a wrought iron fire poker, man. Like just act like you're getting hit. And he just like could not do it. He was moving weird and it just never looked real. And he wasn't reacting like he was getting hurt at all. And I'm like, okay, how do I direct this? How do you tell somebody?
So she hits him out of frame and
yeah, we did a lot of trickery. That scene was longer in the script.
You had a lot of, I like we just watched it. Matter of fact, it's still on my preview screen here, but I'll actually cut to it. It's her standing over him. Like that, and she kind of comes up and her hair just is like a paid actor. Her hair just falls right there.
Yeah.
Looks great, and she moves it out of the way. It was a really good shot. And I feel like a lot of times those more action-packed scenes kind of seem kind of cheesy when it comes to independent film. And yours seemed very well done, very professionally
seemed
done.
authentic.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was the sound design afterwards. Colin, my composer, normally that would be a scene that kind of the sound designer works on, right, and do sound effects. But I said to my composer, I said, is there some way we can kind of like do something to like pump this up a little bit? Like maybe we're like inside his brain and we hear some kind of like static or distortion when he gets hit, and he just took that idea and ran with it, and it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Colin was great to work with. It's one of the first times I've worked with like a dedicated music supervisor and composer on a project, and he just like he totally understood the project from day one.
Yeah.
He joined from seeing the trailer. The film was shot,
cool.
and he hit me up and was like, "Yo, what is this project? I want to work with you."
I have my first feature doc that I did. I was the first one I worked with a composer rather than pulling stuff off like Artlist, you know. And I have said it once, and I'll say it again. I'll say it till the day I die. If it weren't for Richie Mays, my composer on 2, that movie would not be nearly as good as it is. Especially where it's a documentary, you got to draw people in, and the music is such an important part of that. So like having a composer on set and then having a music suit, we had a vocal track that we got professionally recorded and everything. So like I had a music supervisor. It was her job to get everyone to the recording date. She told me when to show up, and I showed up. And those people are so undervalued, I feel like, in the industry. But like directors are cool, DPs are cool, producers are cool, but those guys that just take the load off of the line producer or the director or the set manager, those guys are so important.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like sound and music is 49% of film.
Yeah.
And they're just like the unsung heroes. I stick with my sound people because once you like have a sound person you trust, like hold on to them for
hold on to your John Williams.
I recently watched a movie on it was on Prime, and within the first 10 minutes or so, my wife even looked over and was like, "Was this supposed to be happening?" There was just audio issues. The levels were just a little bit off, little things like that. And you're just wondering, like, one, how did you get to Prime with all of these issues, or what I would maybe see as an issue being a perfectionist. It's just interesting because I was distracted the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like the rest, the hour and 15 minutes that happened after that didn't matter because I was already tuned out.
Yeah.
I mean, once you're aware of like problems with the actual technicality of how the film was made, like it's useless to watch a movie because you're not actually like experiencing it. If you're trying to create an experience, like I kind of was with this, immersion is key, and setting the tone with the color and the style it's shot, how it's cut, paced, but then also the sound, like having a consistent kind of atmosphere. And I mean, I basically just told my composer, Colin, I said, at the beginning, it's fun and light. And at the end, it's like crazy and dark. and there's going, there's
it's not that hard.
There's some kind of, that was like really just about what we talked about. We watched the film together and we talked about some ideas. But then I just said, okay, like have fun.
Did you guys do like you would give him an edited video, like a semi-edited, a cut, and then he would score the cut?
Well, because he came on so late, I actually had a locked cut with temp music. And I had gotten some music artists to give me some tracks. I didn't know if I was going to use them, but they gave me permission to license them, if I did want to. So I said, look, this is what I got with how it looks like with the temp cut. I've got these tracks that we can use. And he ended up liking 2 of them, and we remixed, I believe, both of those. The theme, Anna's theme, that it's like a little vocal, like ba, 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 that happens throughout the film. That came from like an electronic dance track by a guy named Calvin Marcus. He's super cool. He does trailer music out in Hollywood, and we took nothing else from his song except for that. And we just we really liked that little tone or whatever, and it became her theme throughout the film. And it changes and gets weirder as it goes on.
When I had my doc, I had him score a couple. So there's one particular sequence where they're talking. It's about infertility. So they're talking about losing babies and stuff like that. So it's super sad, and it's sad without the music. But I really wanted that to be the punch. I wanted people to be crying in the audience. That was my goal. So I actually scored it with some placeholder music he gave me. So like sad theme number 1. And then I said, "Here, score this." And I gave him about a 15-minute segment. He gave me a 15-minute song that he scored to the feeling of that. And what's funny about the filmmaking process is that wasn't even what actually made that scene. There was he went on for about 20 minutes on that cut, and the last 5 minutes of it, there was one particular dip in the music which just correlated great with a one-liner that was said during all the tears and stuff. And I was like, I wonder if this works. And it works so flawlessly.
Yeah.
So like, if you're a music composer out there, or if you're, getting B-roll footage, overshoot, like give them something to work with because that's what made the cut.
Yeah.
And it's having a good composer that you guys can have that match. Nolan's got Zimmer, right? Nolan's my favorite director, so I used to tell Richie, you're the Zimmer to my Nolan. I need you to lock in here.
But I just saw Interstellar at the IMAX re-release the other week. Man, I'd never seen it in the theater, only saw it at home.
Yeah.
And man, that's
the way Nolan intended.
And in an IMAX theater, just the way the sound's set up, it like vibrates your seat when it's really
unreal.
bassy. Yeah. And the music works so well with like the really, really loud sounds in that movie, like the rockets like firing and stuff. That's really cool.
Who is your favorite director?
Terrence Malick.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird. He doesn't really make horror movies or movies in the style I've made. I've made films kind of making an homage to him, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily my style. I just like how he tells stories and what he tells stories about. And he's also like a very mysterious filmmaker. He doesn't do like interviews. Yeah. There's not a lot known about him, but he consistently makes this like epic jaw-dropping.
And that's important to understand is like when I was a young filmmaker, my favorite was Nolan. So I'm going to try to be Nolan. I know I'm not going to be Nolan, but I try to recreate that with what I could. And what I found is I like Nolan's storytelling. I like his how he messes with time. And as a matter of fact, I want to do that on my feature I'm writing right now is kind of mess with time. Give it that. The movie Memento. He says the timeline's a paperclip instead of a line. I'm trying to do something like that. But also, like, I love Kubrick's messing around with light, like he did in 2001 Space Odyssey and all that. And then there's, you got the symmetry with Wes Anderson. Sometimes that's not my thing, but there have been a couple scenes in the 3 movies I've made that I want that symmetry, so I'm like, all right, well, how does Wes Anderson do it? Because he does it perfectly every time for 90 minutes. So
I mean, all those things are like tools. Like, you can choose to use them or not. It just depends on like the situation. What I try and do is be inspired by people, not like mimic them.
Yeah.
So like
inspired by them.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Looker was my second horror film, and I just decided to do horror because I thought it left me a lot of room to be stylized.
Yeah.
And the style of filmmakers in horror I really like is like the Cronenbergs, David and his son Brandon. And so I was inspired by those movies for Looker. And while neither of those filmmakers are even in my top 10 favorites, I just wanted to challenge myself and be like, I want to do something like this.
For sure.
So, we've talked about Looker. Before we move on, when's it air? How can we see it?
So Looker will come out January 25th at 7 p.m. It'll show at the Athena Cinema in Athens, Ohio, as part of kind of a screening of a bunch of student films.
Is that screening free? Or
it is free.
Okay,
It'll be free. You can sign up probably for tickets on their website or just show up on the day. I don't know if it'll be packed or not, but I'm sure I can get you a little standing room if it's.
That's awesome. Again, I just recently watched the capstones at Marshall, and I think that's a very similar. This was graduating seniors' final projects, and that was a packed house. So, I can't imagine that there'd be anything less than that. Just because we had Delford on the town hall recently with our foundation, and he was sharing that he's excited about some of the film festivals that we've got coming to the area, and just things that are going to get people out, because a lot of filmmakers and creators, just like we all want to support one another. We all want an active community that we can participate in. And it's nice whenever you have a university that has a class every so often that's putting stuff out. And whenever you graduated from Ohio University.
Yep.
Bobcats, right?
Yep.
They were just in a bowl game, weren't they?
Yeah, they won MAC championship.
Right on.
First time in 51 years.
That's kind of a small town,
yeah.
Athens,
right?
right?
Smaller than this town.
So, being a film student in a small town, did you struggle in terms of finding motivations or inspirations, anything like that?
I think part of the beauty of being in the Midwest in a small town is you've got more community. I mean, that might kind of not make a lot of sense, but in a big city, everybody's spread out. They don't got to interact with each other and help each other out as much. Athens, for better or worse, is a place where you walk down the street and you can't walk down the street. You have like 5 conversations with people you know, and then you end up where you're going. So it's very small town. Everybody knows each other pretty much. And because you're at a school, there's all this creative kind of energy there of people trying to learn and trying to hustle and get better. And so I never found a shortage of collaborators or community while I was in Athens. I actually like really miss it. If it wasn't just a college town and I actually could, be a video maker there, I totally would. But maybe someday I'll go back.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of value in the tight-knitness of our small communities,
and it's not like that in the L.A., Atlanta.
Absolutely. It's dog eat dog.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to help each other.
Exactly.
Yes, and so when you're filling out your roster and you've previously worked with creatives, it makes the next project easier. In my opinion, just again knowing I don't have to fill this role. I got somebody talented there. That's mental energy that you can put into something else.
Yeah. That's my favorite part about filmmaking is like, yeah, the end product's cool and taking it to film festivals and stuff is cool. But kind of at this point in the film, this is horrible to say on a podcast promoting my film, but like, I don't really care about it anymore. Yeah. Like I did the work that I loved, and I'm glad people can have it and enjoy it now. But my favorite part is putting it together. It's like the journey of the process.
That doesn't stop either, man. My feature, it's wrapped production in April, wrapped post in July, August. Of course, we were editing for a year before that, but we wrapped in July. I think I told Jerry, I was like, I'm just done with it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I hired a publicist to like get it to distributors and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, we have a distributor that's interested in your IP. They want to do a straight split, and a minimum guarantee or a IP. And he said, I said no to the IP. I said, why? He was like, because you don't want to sell your creative. I was like, dude, I'm done with it. I was like, if they want to pay me a couple $1 million, I will sell them this movie. That is fine.
I'm pretty sure
I'd be fine with that.
Now it would be different with something like a narrative where you can kind of build out a sequel. But like for me, I'm done. I've told the story I want to tell. And if they want to take it and baby it, as long as my name and my company stays on it, I'm fine with it.
I mean, to the infertility story, the anime.
Yeah.
Like that's
the infertility story too.
If they want to make an anime, they can. But yeah, I'm with you, man. Like after my premiere that I did not hire an event coordinator for and was running around.
So you threw the banner away.
I just had that experience.
That red carpet banner,
yeah.
And I remember like. You were just so done with everything.
Oh,
you
my
threw
gosh.
it away. And it's actually in my garage still yet. I came across it.
Thank you, man. That's nice.
Because I thought, when he may be done with it, he may not be done with it. And so it's still a memory for him to hold on to. But,
I appreciate that. But I told Jerry, I think afterward, I said, I'm never doing this again, doing a red carpet premiere without a event coordinator.
Yeah.
Because I walked in and got the silent auction stuff laid out and worked with the movie theater for their concessions and got the beer and wine out. And then I had to go change. And then we got the backdrop and the red carpet and all that. And I'm like, I didn't even get to walk down my own red carpet.
Yeah, no, you want to go to your premiere, like enjoy it. I just had a very similar experience with the premiere of Looker, which we showed in Columbus at Studio 35 at the beginning of December. And my actor Porter, it was his birthday. He wanted to show it for his birthday and raise money for the Humane Society. So it was free tickets, donation, if you wanted to donate to the Humane Society. And it was an open house. So this is kind of like a premiere style that we just came up with because of our limitations with the theater and with our friends that we wanted to come and crew to see it. So we showed it 4 times on a rolling schedule with my previous horror movie, Death of a Bible Salesman. And so people could show up, hang out with us in the lobby, at the bar, get some snacks, talk.
Okay.
And they could go in and watch it. It's about 30 minutes total.
That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been a really nice option. Yeah.
And that way you're not.
Well, hold on. Nobody would want to stay longer in my So the air conditioning went out in the theater that 2 days before is when I was
It
told.
was so
when
sweaty.
did you show it?
August 1st.
Oh, that's great. That's
yeah,
brilliant.
it was so hot.
He opened with Deadpool and Wolverine. It's insane.
Yeah, I almost beat Deadpool and Wolverine out on the box office.
But no, and I think it was a big thing for Jacob. Whenever I offered to do photos on the red carpet for him, and
You were a lifesaver.
and again the idea, having that collaborative network, having people that you can lean on whenever you need to do a premiere, you need to do a red carpet. It's nice knowing somebody that can do that. I hardly knew Jacob at that point, but I'm a supporter. I like to help people, especially if you're doing something. So it was a no-brainer. But just being able to have those pictures of the event, being able to market that event, that is important when you're an independent filmmaker. Being able to utilize any and every bit of content.
Yeah. I actually have a kind of a, not a pitch deck, but a folder on my hard drive, on my movie hard drive, that is for when I get a distribution deal.
Publicity photos.
And it's got
and stuff.
pictures from that event to say, hey, if you missed it, so like, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying how awful it was, but it's an experience that like was just such a full circle moment for me. It was my first doc. I had family come in that had never come in to see any of my movies before. It was my first feature, not first doc, first feature. I had 91 crew members, 110 different titles. 91 people filled those 110 titles, and it was just really important to me to and of course it's a documentary. I'm telling a story about a real people, right? There was four couples, 3 doctors that took part in it. So like, I wanted to give them and their families that kind of closure. So I'm not saying don't have a premiere. Do it. Buy the red carpet.
Those folks to feel special also,
but
because they
hire
were
an
a big
event
part.
coordinator so that you can enjoy your premiere. That's my
And
advice.
they can hire a photographer so that you're not counting the day before. Hey, have you got anybody?
So ours
I'll
was
do it.
private. We didn't have the open door. So I had it was a 304 seat cinema. I sold 300 tickets.
Nice.
And someone asked me like, hey, who do we show our tickets to? I'm like, just come in. So if an event coordinator was there, we'd probably have someone checking tickets at the door or names on the list, But I mean, literally sitting in the next room over, I have the 300 tickets, custom tickets that I printed out to give to everybody. And I forgot, because I'm doing everything else, to go put those tickets in all the cup holders in the movie theater.
Oh, yeah.
So they're just sitting back there. And then I had crew gifts that I wasn't able to give out and stuff like that until we had a wrap party, which was much smaller, so that was good. But the premiere was great and super important, but hire an event
But premieres are like important, especially in independent film, for the community aspects, and it's like that's a physical place, that people have to show up at a certain time, and feel like they're a part of something, and that you worked on creating that experience for them. It's important for everybody, like the people watching, the people supporting you and your crew, which put blood, sweat, and tears in. That's what makes it worth it for me.
So I actually had the score and the vocal track all pressed into a vinyl thing, and I got one to see how well it sounded, because you can do it one way, which is where they actually make the mold and everything's the exact same. Then there's a way to do a vinyl called a lathe, and they actually lathe in the little grooves that make the music. A lot less reliable, but much cheaper. So I ordered one because I was gonna get that for everybody. It was like $75, and the one had some mess ups, and I was like, I'm not doing this for everybody. So I have the only copy of that, but like I was trying to show my crew, like, thank you. I wish I could pay you more. Here's a vinyl record of the score you made and the vocal track that you wrote and sang.
Yeah, soundtracks are really important. I always pride myself on like the music and soundscape of my films. I've never had. I did print one CD one time for a premiere. It was like a limited edition. If you came to the premiere, you got a CD, and then we ended up just like putting it on Spotify as like a playlist anyways, because it was a bunch of licensed tracks, not originals.
So I've thought about, technically my Eagle Eye Productions owns the music. So like I've thought about trying to see how that would work, getting it. Maybe I'll have to talk to Isaac.
Trying to cut a record?
I mean, yeah, you could just make a digital record.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool. Maybe I'll have to look
Sell it
that.
on iTunes for like
$0,
99 cents even.
I actually, it's in my office at the house. The CD for the soundtrack of Electric Jesus.
Yeah,
I actually have.
Were they selling it there?
No, I don't. Chris gave it to me. That, and I got a pen and a couple little things.
That's cool.
But when you put a lot of time, effort into a soundtrack, and that one movie specifically had like,
it was about a big hairband.
It was about a faux or a hairband, Christian band, and so they had original music that he had written, and so it was really, really cool. They did a concert after the premiere, or after they viewed it, and that CD, pretty nifty. I like that. I have to play it in my neighbor's car.
I was about to say, how do you play it?
I got a buddy.
But you don't have a CD changer.
He's got a 2003 Saturn, so I go sit in that Saturn, man, and just
jam
hammer
out
down.
to Electric Jesus.
I don't think I have a CD player in my car. I haven't even thought about it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, merch is cool though. I mean, a little memento reminds people you made
those
something.
for Christ. That's such a banger, though.
We have just posters and shirts so far for Looker. Yeah. But my brother made shirts for the premiere. He didn't even tell me. He just showed up and it was the poster on a T-shirt. Yeah. And I was like, dang, this is so cool. And some people asked where they could get it, so I can just give them a little online link or whatever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Looker's not the only thing that you've done. We did go through your YouTube, and I personally like the Good Kids, the neo-noir. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us about kind of your YouTube or your filmmaking journey as a whole. Like, where'd you start? How'd you start? Did you start in school, before school?
What was your main distribution and all that stuff?
Yeah, YouTube has been where I've been living. I think I was on Vimeo a little bit just because I worked for them for a while. But yeah, all my stuff's on YouTube. There's some unreleased things. There's also some films that are distributed through a company named 4x3, so they're on their YouTube page. But yeah, for the most part, I've just been doing short little narrative stuff since I was 11, actually. Awesome. The iPod 3 came out. I think it was the first iPod with a camera. 2011. It was. I remember this day. It's like seared in my memory. It was snowed like a foot, and me and my friends, had a snow day. We were sledding, and we were kind of bored of sledding. We were like, "Well, we got this like new iPod 3. Like, let's see what we can do with the video." And we made this like Charlie Chaplin-esque like little silent black and white, super violent film because we had like airsoft guns, and we were like, "Let's make an action movie." And I was just hooked. Like, I was the guy that they gave the iPod to, and everybody else acted and did stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll film it, cool angles and stuff. And I was like hooked. Like, as an 11-year-old, I love telling my friends what to do and like making something happen. And what's funny is we didn't know how to end it. And so we did overshoot. We just didn't know. We just kept filming, and eventually it was dark. We were like, all right, let's go inside. And then my buddy put it together, and he found a place to like end it. But from then on, I was hooked. I knew I had to be behind the camera. So I just kept uploading to YouTube. I vlogged for a little bit, which gave me some good doc experience because I love working in documentary now. That's something I found like later on.
You like documentaries?
Yeah, I haven't done a lot.
It's interesting because they're not real films.
Yeah, we've had people. He's saying that because I had someone look me in the face closer than we are right now and tell me that docs aren't real films.
I think it was at the premiere.
What? What is the context of that?
I'm not going to say who, but he said all you've done is documentaries, which isn't true. It's just my first narrative is unreleased.
Yeah.
But yeah, he told me that documentaries aren't
real.
real.
That's stupid.
You're not actually creating anything.
It's camera and say, "Buddy, you're dumb."
It's you?
No, it's not him. But it's going to be a theme of this every time we talk about a documentary. Like this guy.
No, I mean film is, I guess, whatever you want it to be, but a doc is like some kind of ultimate form of film to me, and I never understood that as somebody that watched documentaries. I just thought, okay, boring, like info dump. Yeah. Pictures panning from left to right, very exciting. But
like Ken Burns.
right, and that's like kind of like TV documentaries, or like what's in my head, and like war documentaries and things, and you just like can't find something more comfortable like sandpaper on your brain or something.
I think docs give you the opportunity to you have a little bit more access to documentary worthy stories is what I found.
Well, yeah, because life is pure story.
Exactly. So for me, both documentaries I did were about access. I wanted to create something. I didn't have the money or the time to do a narrative. But I had the people nearby, interview set up. I have great interview setups and stuff like that. So like that's kind of what led me into doing docs. I don't want to be a Ken Burns, a documentary filmmaker. I want to be a filmmaker.
Right.
And if that's going to allow me to create something, and I mean, so far, I mean, we're in discussions with, we have been in discussions with a number of distributors that are fairly well known that I can't name directly, but that wouldn't have happened if I waited until I had the money to make a narrative. You know,
Yeah.
If I waited to have the cast and all that for a narrative, instead I just shut up, I shot, and
I think it comes down to
made
story. You know, you have to be able to tell a story. And if I'm watching your documentary and I don't see a story in it, then I don't know that I consider it a film.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, you can't just like take shots of real life and say, this is a documentary.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like it's infinitely more challenging, at least in my mind, because instead of creating something from nothing, like building a model, you are fishing for things. And you're like stringing together something that made sense to you in a certain time and context and place. And suddenly you need to transfer that understanding and sense of like discovery and story, something being revealed to you through stringing it all back together in a way that doesn't take months and years to express to the audience. I did my first feature-length documentary, which isn't released, follows a band. They were making their first studio album, had just been signed to a record. They were like a garage band that I grew up with.
Oh, cool.
And I was super excited for them. I was like, guys, let me like follow your little like studio recording sessions for the next couple months, and then put out a documentary about it. I ended up filming with them for like 18 months and like going on tour with them, and that album became like a really complicated story, and it kept getting delayed for reasons. And, the story's in the documentary. I hope you'll see it someday. But it's so difficult to just sit there and watch things and know what to see and know what to capture and then be able to use to tell an audience like what's going on and make them interested.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like I think documentary is like pure story because it's real life. And if you're writing a movie from scratch, you can only aspire to be like a documentary,
Well, and again, from a narrative standpoint, everything is scripted from the lines to the movement of the camera to the lighting to all of that. Whereas when you're doing a documentary, you're counting on your subject to, one, hit their marks. You're wanting them, they have a story to tell. They likely don't have the storytelling skills to just, enamor you. And so you have to direct and guide and pull them along and hope that they put out the information in a way that you can edit and put it out and tell a complete story.
Yeah.
And that's a real challenge because, again, you don't know what's going to happen that day. And if it's, if you're shooting outside, you don't know, is it going to be raining that day? I know it's an outdoor concert. What's the lighting going to be like? It's probably going to be bad.
Learning to shoot on the fly and like just deal with what's being thrown at you. I mean, you're literally going out into chaos. Any day you're making a documentary, you're just kind of like walking out into a stormy sea and going like, come at me, bro. Yeah. Like, what you got for me today? Like
documentaries, what I found is you're not going to make a well-done it's all interviews, right? Documentaries are almost all interviews, whether it's a narrator or on-screen subjects. You have to know how to ask questions to be a documentary director. You have to be able to, I know that I wanted this person. I can think of 36 moments off the top of my head of when I knew I wanted this person was right on the edge of crying and I wanted that shot of the tear falling.
Yeah.
And it sounds bad, but if it's a really sad movie and it's just told like this the entire time, it doesn't grab you.
You needed that tear.
You need that tear. You need that raw emotion.
You need to wring their hands.
and being able to ask those leading questions where you know what the answer is, but you just need them to kind of go to that moment.
Yeah.
It's really hard with hard stuff. My movie deals with stillbirth. It deals with miscarriages at 7 weeks, miscarriages at 20 weeks. It deals with people that have been trying to have kids for years and years and years. All they want is a family, and they can't. So like,
but then also it deals with them achieving that, right, and all of that monumental celebration.
They don't want to go back to that in their mind.
Yeah.
The fact that they're sitting on my couch here, ready to talk to me, is one thing. One success alone, but
they want to talk about the success.
They want to talk about the success. Everyone that's in the movie, actually everyone except for one, during their interview, they had their kid. One of them was pregnant. They actually had the kid a week before the premiere, which is nice. He actually came to the premiere. It's kind of cool. But like I needed this person who had 2 miscarriages, and now they have twins, which is why it's called 2, by the way, to actually go back to that time when they were in the car on the way back from being told there's no heartbeat, to go back to the time where he had to, trying to say it where it's not going to like turn people off in the pod, but he had to do these hard things that no human being should have to go through, and he doesn't want to go through that. And earlier I talked about how the music dipped and there was that voice line. The voice line that he said is actually I can't talk about it, and it's this moment that he had to go back to was so painful for him. It was the first interview we did. That's another thing. Get your sad stuff out of the way first. Don't put it off because it's sad. It's going to be, and also split it up to 2 interviews. Don't do, 3 hours of interview and then go sad and then say, all right, go get some water and let's do happy.
Oh,
completely different day.
Yeah.
I did my sad story in September of last year. I did my happy story in April or March of this year.
That's smart. I like that because I've been working on a similar project or something that deals with heavy themes, I guess. It's my second feature doc, and working with my sound designer on this. Actually, it was his idea. It's from he's directing. It's his experience, but I just really liked the idea, and I resonated with it in my own ways. But it's essentially a takedown of a mega church that's accused of being a cult, and we've been working on it for years. And they've done serious harm to people in the past, and we have to interview them about it.
Yeah,
and those are
hard
all day interviews. I mean, one of them was 5 hours, I think. And they're talking about,
What church is it?
I can't say.
Oh. Well, my documentary, my ability to get these people into that hard time, my publicist actually, he's also a talent manager. He said, hey, I have a woman in North Carolina that wants to talk about how she left. I can say because I'm not, but I'm not signed to the project or anything yet, but she left, I won't say because I'm afraid I'll get it wrong, but it's the same name that Josh Duggar and all their church. If you know who the Duggars are, you'll know that.
Okay.
But it's the same thing. Got accused of being a cult and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, you did really good here. Can you interview this woman about being ostracized from that church? I was like, yeah, give me a script and a rundown. Yeah, sure. Give me a budget. I can do it. But nothing's happened yet, but it's those hard conversations they make you a better documentarian, and you're able to create a better product, but it makes you a better director, because being able to look at someone this far away and make them cry or take them back to these painful times, it's a lot easier to say, hey, take a step back onto your mark because we want... You know what I mean? It's a lot easier to boss people around when you can make someone cry because you're talking about really hard stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like catching lightning in a bottle. You're there for reality. You're not there to ape reality and make them say, okay, act like you're crying. And in the movie, we're going to make it seem like you're thinking about your dead kid.
There's a reason they're not
your
called
friend
actors.
that committed suicide because their pastor said.
There's a reason they're subjects and not actors.
Yeah. And that is tough on you. I mean, there's a reason why that church documentary hasn't been finished yet. It's because I think the whole crew doesn't really have the heart to work on it full time.
Yeah.
Every single interview we've done, and we've done probably almost 24 at this point, is an all day thing. You show up apprehensive and you leave with your soul crushed.
Yeah.
And you know that you're leaving behind somebody that doesn't feel great about what they all talked about, especially some of the people that haven't dealt with this stuff in therapy yet.
Yeah.
And then you're that's a sacrifice that we're making to raise kind of a greater awareness about this problem. And we all have full-time jobs. We're independent filmmakers. This isn't our bread and butter. We're not getting paid to do
There's
these
not a
super long
giant
interviews.
budget behind it, so-
Exactly. So we just have to bide our time, work slowly, and with what energy we can give it. But yeah, I mean, that's the first time I've really, for film, had to have really real hard interactions with people and just be able to listen and because that's like another thing is that's comfort that you're giving them by just having, giving them an outlet to tell that story.
It's therapeutic to talk. Right.
Exactly. But it's still hard for all parties involved, and being able to be a steward of that as a director, like a filmmaker in charge, and make that experience actually even happen at all.
Yeah.
Is kind of miraculous.
And it goes back to what I said about get someone if you want to create something, you don't have the resources for a narrative, shoot something that you're familiar with, you have access to as a documentary. And so for me, the whole thing that started it was my cousins went through infertility. And I was like, that's an inspiring story. Like, you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
And they did. And it just kind of snowballed from there into something way bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. And so yeah, that's a hard conversation to have with strangers. Now, much less these are my nieces and nephews that we're talking about that inspired the movie.
Well, and I think, as you talk about how, a 5-hour day just gets exasperated because of the content that you're getting out of it. I think on some level, there's also kind of an optimism that you bring into the interview, and that you're hoping to bring them some catharsis. You're hoping to give them this outlet. And then you get done with this 5-hour interview. They've bared it all. They feel worse. You feel worse. Nobody feels good about what was accomplished. And then you just have to pack all your gear up and go.
Yeah, yeah. And you got to have that vision in your mind about what the end product's going to be, because otherwise, if you just take one of those interview days out of context, you'd be like, what the heck am I doing? Why am I doing this?
For sure.
But you got to have a good cause. You got to have a vision in mind. And that's something I've never been short of, is just having a vision. Yeah,
vision is that's what's going to keep you creating. So anyway, back to Good Kids.
Oh yeah, wow. we totally went on the documentary tangent.
I wanted to talk to you about that. I know it's award-winning film. It's tell me a little bit about that, and again, kind of your
role in that.
We got the iPhone 3, so
Yeah. So skip forward to the end of high school, and I have a bunch of high school friends that I've been making movies with, and I want to do something kind of cool and big and flashy. And I just seen the Safdie brothers movie Good Time, which was like an anxiety trip of thriller, and I loved it, and I wanted to do something like it. That this is like an example of trying to imitate your heroes and stuff like that. So I was also studying with a professor about the genre of noir. He was like a family friend, and we both liked movies, and we kind of had a little movie club. And we were watching noir movies, and I said, I want to make my own neo-noir. And we came up with that story and wrote it together, and then we shot that over weekends, over 4 months, just getting people together when they could, because that's like a flat broke $0 production.
Was Good Kids, you're out of high school?
Yeah, I would think I was 17 when I did that.
Very cool.
And then, it won a Scholastic Gold Key, which is one of the highest art honors you can win as a high schooler, I think.
And again, we're looking at shots right now of the red.
Yes, those are way back when they had those little LED squares that just came out.
Yeah,
and we use those same exact lights for underneath the bulbs in the bedroom scene in Looker. They're these old street lamps we got, and we just put all these little square LED lights inside. It made it look like a glowing lamp.
Yeah, it's super cool to see the translation between Looker and this. I mean, you have the red, but then that scene where he was walking up, he is dark. Everything's dark. It's super cool to see your style. I mean, how long ago was that?
That was 2017 or 2018.
So I mean, that's 6 years ago that your style kind of translates into something you just created.
I've never even made the connection to that. Yeah. That's so cool. You just pulled that up there because I didn't even think about how they're connected.
Again, it's a tool in your tool belt, and a good carpenter knows when to use the right tools.
Yeah.
So what is next for you?
What is next? I have got a couple projects on the burners right now. I just signed up for this cool Midwest film competition called Winter Film. Kind of like the 48-hour film challenge, but you have a month to make a film from scratch.
Okay,
and cool. It has to be all volunteer. You can't have a budget. And all my gigs that I had lined up for this year kind of got shoved out of winter, more further down into the summer and stuff. So I'm not doing anything these next couple months, and I wanted to make a film just to keep my feet wet. Thought this would be a good excuse So it's going to be like it's got to be 10 minutes or less. So I'll just make a little scrappy DIY 10-minute film February, and we'll just see how that turns out. That you don't get to pre-write or anything. They give you a theme and a prop or something like that. And then you'll go,
you have
write
to build off of that.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. Just,
flex those creative muscles.
Yeah. I've done the 48 and 72 a few times, but having a month to do this is like great, especially because we all have full-time jobs and like busy.
You mentioned it. Good Kids wasn't like a mimic of your favorite director. It just occurred to me, the film club does that. We mimic directors, but everything's a little different. We do the same shots and stuff. That's the whole point of our meetings is to, hey, let's recreate this Nolan scene. But like the Nolan scene recreated, we didn't have multi-million dollars to build or to go shoot at where was he? Cal Berkeley or UCLA, one of those Southern California schools. We couldn't build the set, so we did with what we had, and we just kind of recreated it. So mimicking is for new filmmakers, it's very important. It's a very good way to get your feet wet.
And again, you're able to take those skills to your next project.
Yeah.
If you learn how to light a scene like Nolan, well, guess what? I learned that now, and so I know that, and so you get to carry that knowledge around.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to. I watch a lot of movies. I've watched way more movies than I'll ever create, and I really enjoy watching and seeing. Wow, these guys did that.
Yeah.
What can I do to do that?
Being inspired by other people's work is like where I get a lot of my creative juice. I listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
That's how I come up with ideas a lot.
Carson and I actually created an entire short music video off because I listened to one song. I was like, we could work with this.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. Just get a song, go out and shoot something with your phone or whatever. But those are always good exercises to, I shouldn't say mimic, but like take the energy of something you really like and then kind of run with it and try and make it your own. There's like that saying, there's nothing new under the sun. But I think that a way you can make that work for you is that, you are you and you have your tastes and your experience and your personality and viewpoint on things. And so then just cherry picking kind of what you like and mashing it all up together, you're synthesizing something new out of everything that exists under the sun, and you are making it your own and unique just because it's coming from you now. And it's your unique blend of taste. And so like Looker isn't all Cronenberg, and Good Kids isn't all neo-noir or just the Safdie brothers, but I am inspired by that energy, and I'm like, all right, what can I do trying to do this? And then, when you're trying to like kind of like live through your heroes or inspirations or make art in their same vein, you can kind of be aware of what they've done, and then you have a choice of whether you can do that or not. Yeah. And and then that awareness becomes more tools in your tool belt, so I can do something in the style of Cronenberg or not. And, it's just so long as you have a good reason why either way, that's making me a better filmmaker at the end of the day.
And what I found is you find those little things that like a particular scene you want to create, and then you like turn it all in. As you're doing it, you're like, oh, this would look good. And then you kind of have your own thing, right? Mm-hmm. There's one scene that might be very similar to the others, but I mean, for the most part, you have your own thing after that, because you just kind of get your juices going, right? To get your creativity flowing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's only a couple direct comparisons you can make from Looker to the works of the Cronenbergs, but like body horror kind of being their wheelhouse and Looker being a body horror, the melting body aspect is something fantastical, like out of a Cronenberg film.
Spoilers.
Yeah, that's kind of the concept. But then, like the main character of some of his movies discovering something's wrong with them, and that being kind of part of the horrors, like this mystery of what's going on with me. Those were things that like I couldn't get away without having in my movie. And then after that, tried as many ways to be intentional about what I was doing similar to them and what I wasn't.
Yeah,
that's interesting because it seems like whenever I write everyday scenes. I really like just the mundaneness of every day. And I'd say my favorite filmmaker is Kevin James, and I always draw inspiration from his Clerks and just how basic that is. and yet you're able to tell a whole story and develop a whole world out of it. And yet I stick to, I try to create those scenes that, in my mind, interest me, and so I didn't even realize I'm pulling that from Kevin James as well, not just his creative style or those other things. So
Yeah.
Beyond directing, is directing your favorite thing to do when you're on set?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I was born to be a director.
Same here.
I like to ask people. We all kind of find niches and parts of the industry that lay to your skills or that. So, but directing, you say, is yours?
Yeah, I think so. And I've just kind of picked up other skills along the way.
To supplement.
Trying to get towards that dream. Okay, I want to be a director, but I need something to shoot.
Yeah.
I guess I'll be a writer.
Yeah.
Okay, I got something written and I want to direct, but I got nobody to shoot. Okay, I guess I'll learn how to shoot.
Yeah.
That all the way down.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to filmmakers that they want to learn to direct in order to make their writing a little bit more in depth or a little better. Or we talked to Chris White and we asked him who the first person he brings on set is, and he said it's the job that I can't do.
Yeah.
It's the job that he tries to fill first.
He said casting was his favorite.
Oh yeah,
that's what he a casting director, because they know the people and he doesn't know the
Yep.
actors like that.
Yep.
And he just shot a film with
Brian Bumgarner.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
That's from The Office. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's his number one slot.
That's awesome.
It's interesting now because, again, watching movies, if you watch movies on Netflix or wherever, you start to find groupings of cast,
Yeah.
and you start
And
to
ones that work together.
You start to realize that they've got similar agents, or they all
Yeah.
work under
Yeah.
the same casting house or things like that. And being a little bit on the industry inside, you can make those assumptions and draw those conclusions. But it's just interesting to see how people build their teams out. Because again, you got to play to your strengths or play to your weaknesses.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like your friend, like that's my favorite part is like there is things I'm bad at. There's things I don't know, and I'm not scared of that. I just go out and find somebody that's better at all those things than
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
And that gives me more confidence in what I'm doing because I know that other people
You can
who
trust
do
those
quality
other people.
work have
Yeah.
my back, and that's way I can trust people like my sound designer, my composer, and be like, look, this is the vibe. Do whatever you want. I trust
Yeah.
you. Bye. I like.
Sure.
It's
There's
also
certainly
hard.
people you can work with that you couldn't have the freedom to do that with.
Here's a question. I don't know if it's the same in someone that went to film school, but as an independent filmmaker, I was self-taught. So I started making my first movie and I was like, all right, well, how am I going to light it? Learned how to gaff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how am I going to do sound? I learned how to boom op and sound mix and all that. So like I have had my hands in everything and have had to do everything. So it was actually in my first movie that I didn't have any. I had an assistant director. That was it. Like that in a couple cam ops for like one scene. So like, it's really hard for me to let go of those. I want to not micromanage. That's the wrong word. It has a bad connotation, but I want to oversee and check the grip. I want to make sure the sandbags are up. I want to make sure that the stabilization on the car is done right. I want to make gaff. I want to make sure the lighting temperature is good. All of these, the DP is probably like my best friend because I'm always going to be there making sure. That's what I used to think I wanted to be as a DP. So like, is it hard for you to let go of those things and just trust your people?
I mean, when you have people that aren't good, yeah.
Well, so I was sitting there thinking because again, we're independents working
Yeah.
off of the people that we have around
Yeah.
us, and so I'd say most of the time we're not formally trained. or
Exactly.
have
Yeah,
formally
yeah. When
trained.
you don't have people you can trust that are filling in out of the kindness of their hearts, that's when you gotta like probably
Yeah.
more micromanage a little bit. And I've been in those situations. Sometimes you take a chance on somebody and they really shine.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
More often than not, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes you get lucky. I mean, there's some people that you can just tell, like in the instance Porter as our main antagonist. Like, yeah,
He did
that's a
great.
trained LA actress across from him, and there's going to be some quality differences
Yeah.
just in having those two in the same
Yeah.
frame. But for the most part, I think he gets away with it.
He did very well, yeah.
And he just kind of, there were some definite challenges, mostly on my end, just with how to communicate and relay and talk, because he doesn't speak the lingo even. You know, I had 2 totally different styles of directing for both my main actors, which was funny, challenging. But my production manager, Amy, was a freshman in film school. Not a lot of experience, just a really hungry, talented go-getter gal. And I didn't have a production manager, felt like I needed one, talked to the faculty, and I said, who's an up-and-comer like I was when I got here, just hungry to do stuff and be good at it, and got recommended Amy. And, you know, somebody I'd never worked with before, somebody I didn't see any work from before, probably didn't have, like, much to show me anyways, and she just took care of everything. I mean, like, was such a pro, and I was just so grateful to, like, give her the opportunity to even, like, you know, help run production, because she did such a great job.
An experience isn't always the end all be all. I've said, I think on the last maybe 2 episodes ago, I talked about my composers. I originally, when I first started, was working with another composer that has done film composition before and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then he pushed it off. Pushed it off. Yeah, I got something for you. I'll give it to you next week. 4 months later, I'm like, where is this? And I met Richie at my day job, and I said, we just talked about making a movie, and he was like, oh, I make music. You should let me make a song for you sometime. And I was like, yeah, like, maybe. And he's asked me what the movie was about, and I told him, and that was on a Friday. On Monday, we came into work, and he said, hey, I made something, like, I don't know if you'll like it. What, you know, here it is. And it didn't make the final cut, but it was great.
It was something.
And I was like, I've worked with this guy who's a pro and hasn't given me anything more than, like, 15 seconds of some strings, you know? And then here's this kid that, like, he doesn't do this. That's not his thing. But he makes music, you know? And so I was like, you know what? Hey, you want to do it? And he did it, and he was great. And we've talked about just making yourself available.
Yeah.
You know, Amy was hungry. She was ready to work, right?
Yeah.
So, like, she got the opportunity because she was ready to work.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in most cases, talent will trump experience.
Absolutely.
In most cases.
Ambition and a little bit of talent.
Just all you got to do is, like, care. Like, just give a shit, if I can say that on the podcast.
Yeah.
And most people don't.
Yeah. And, you know, that's something about being a part of a small community of creatives, you know, that sucks. There's just always going to be wannabes, and they're going to be dead weight, and they're around forever. And you just got to be okay leaving them behind and just being like, look, I'm not going to work with you again.
And also I don't, sometimes you got to leave them behind. Yes. Like that one composer, I won't work with him again. Richie's my guy now.
Yeah.
If I want a composer, I'm calling Richie. But there's also times where they were dead weight somewhere, and you as a director have to kind of pick up on maybe where their talents are, and then you'll be able to position them where they can actually excel. So, you know, you have to be able to let the person go and not work with them anymore. You also have to understand that, like, it's a small town. There's not 50,000 camera operators ready to chomp at the bit for this, you know, feature, or for this short film.
Not many people can do this
for boom, boom operators are few and far between. So being able as a director to manage the set and kind of move people around based off their talents, and being able to do that fairly quickly. We don't have month-long shoots, you know. If we're lucky, a long shoot is a 5-day, 12-hour a day shoot, you know. And being able to on the first day be like, oh, this guy is camera operator, cannot do camera operation, but then, you know, hey, I want you to PA over with sound. Oh, he can mix. Like, okay, give him the knobs, you know, let him mess with it a little bit, and stuff like that. That's part of being a director, and being a good director is being able to work with what you have. And I think it's more important in a small market than it is in any of the big ones.
Being a director, you got to adapt to so many things, including personnel thing. I mean, you know, that's just like one small thing in the stack of decisions you have to make day to day. But yeah, we had something happen like that on Looker. My buddy Silas is great at sound. He's just an overall hungry filmmaker, young guy, and he was our boom op, and he just insisted in helping the other departments. You know, he really wanted to go for it. And who was I to tell him?
Right.
And so he pulls his back out lifting C-stands.
Hey.
One day, and he can't.
Jerry, have you ever done that?
He can't boom.
3 is too many to put in one bag. The fact that they put wheels on that is ridiculous because it's 1,000 pounds.
I bought
It's too many.
3-pack in this nice case.
3's too many.
From Impact C-stands. They're super nice C-stands. And Jerry was like, yeah, I'll move these. And he didn't walk for a week. I felt awful.
Man. Yeah, that
I felt awful. I make the 19-year-old do it. He moves it for me now.
So Silas pulls his back, and we're like, well, dang. And he's just sitting there, and he's obviously heartbroken that he can't help out anymore, and he's just sitting there doing nothing. So I was like,
mentality.
Look, you know what, bud? Like, we'll get you some icy hot or whatever for your back, and then go be a talent PA. So he was basically the assistant for the actors for like the second half of production, which was great because they were constantly in and out of the bathroom doing changes because we had different, clothes that weren't bloody, clothes that were a little bloody,
right.
Clothes that were totally destroyed. And so there was a lot of costume changes at certain parts, and he helped out a lot. Also, Cooper, the actor Porter, is in prosthetics, his fake eyes.
Yeah.
He was in that for a day. And so he was like his kind of leader, and he held him by the, we have great pictures of him like eating pasta blind and then getting led to the bathroom by the hand.
Seeing eye PA.
Yeah, like at least he didn't have to pull his pants down for him. But he was like literally blind and needed help with everything for about 10 hours.
I've had people that are super no experience, but I value ambition more over anything. No experience, have never done anything on a film set, and I just said, hey, get everyone to sign this. Like, because you're on the film set, and when everything's signed, stick around and help out. PA, pick up the C-stands, move the light stand, grab a sandbag. Those people are the ones that you're going to grow with, and you're going to be able to say, hey, we'll get you a seeing eye PA if you can come and do this again.
No, you definitely want to stick with the people that like stick their necks out for you and have that willingness. I just try and work with people that I feel like are similar to me. Like, they're just passionate. They want, like, if somebody's working for the money, even though that's nice, or they're working for like the clout, or just to say you did, like, those people aren't going to make it. Like, you got to have a real care in your heart, because we're all going to die early, like working in this industry, and you got to really want it.
Stress or pulled muscles.
Our hairs are going to be gray in a few years, and we got to love it, or else it's not worth it.
So
I think especially you have to really want it being in a small market, because Steven Spielberg's not just going, hey, buddy, you look like you could really be useful on a film
nobody's
set.
knocking on my door in Columbus, Ohio saying, hey, you want a job?
And so you have to really be after it. And those connections, I admire, the Adam Sandlers, that work with the same crew and the same cast, and they write parts for these people because they know that they're going to bring it to the project. They're not going to phone it in. They're not going to, just show up to be a part of the production. They are there because they know they have value to add. And then I really admire that, because, and especially as you grow, it's really hard. It's really easy to forget those people at the bottom, all those people that you stepped on your way to the top. So,
all right. Well, I have one.
In case you're curious about my ambitions in this industry.
I have one question to wrap up. I'm using AI here. Shout out ChatGPT to help me out with some of these questions.
It's that kind of mentality. It's going to put us all out of work.
Yeah, dude. What the heck?
If you can find
Didn't we just go through months of strikes about this?
If we can have a PA that can give me 10 lighthearted questions to wrap up a podcast, I'll hire him. Here's a good one. Who, if you could play, or if your movie could be, your life was in a movie, who would play you? Current or past, or... Yeah, what actor would play you?
I know who my mom and my girlfriend would pick, so I think I'll pick him. Matt Damon. Only my mom and my girlfriend.
See it.
Okay, so you're number 3. There's like very few people think I look like Matt Damon, but the ones that do think I look like Matt Damon.
That's funny.
How about you, Jerry?
I would probably have to resurrect Chris Farley, just because I don't know that there's anyone else who's going to bring this energy.
Do you have a little
Chris
jacket?
Farley's awesome.
It's actually on underneath this. I wear it everywhere.
It's your under jacket. I would say for me, I've been told
Kevin Hart.
We have the same complexion in the summer when I tan. No, I think that for me, I've been told that I look like, I'm going to say this, I don't think it's true, but I've been told by several people that I might look like Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't think it's true. I think Leonardo DiCaprio needs to eat a little bit more for him to look even close to me. But I think that I'm going to go not off looks. I think that if someone were to play me and have a life like mine on screen, I think it would actually be someone like Melissa McCarthy. And let me tell you
for sure. Dude, that's you, man.
Let me tell you why. I think Melissa McCarthy would be a good pick because I think that I bring both seriousness and funniness to everything I do.
No, she's a gem.
I try to be comical. So I'm going based off personality.
Okay.
I'm not saying I look like
If I was
Miss
going off
McCarthy.
personality, and this is maybe me
You
more
do look like Matt Damon, though.
if this was me projecting what I like, the vibe I want to have, not what I really am, it'd probably be like Johnny Depp.
Okay.
I just like how goofy
sure.
and silly and
is,
weird
yeah.
Johnny Depp is. Like,
Yeah.
I always like the commitment that Chris Farley put into everything.
I could see Chris Farley. Yeah.
I've really, and I've loved his movies for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're good. Are you good?
Yeah, I actually appreciate you coming in, Max. Great conversation. Very much looking forward to the premiere of Looker. It comes out on January 29th.
25th.
25th.
And I think that's, 2 days after this episode airs?
Something like that. Yeah, so if you're listening to this podcast.
It'll be 14 days from today.
Make
So
sure you check it out.
16.
Is it going to be anywhere after the premiere?
So yeah, we'll put it in film festivals for a while. Follow us at Looker Film on Instagram, and that's how you can kind of keep up with showings for film festivals. And then sometimes after it goes to the film festivals, I'll put it on YouTube for free, just like the rest of my stuff. But until then, I've got a couple other unreleased projects that have been going to film festivals the last few years, and those will be coming out on my YouTube here in the next year as well.
And your YouTube channel is?
Max Kaplan, Kaplan. It's just my name. It'll always be there, and then if I have something come out somewhere else, I'll also put an announcement on that page. So if
We
you just
popped it
follow
up
me
on
there.
screen, too, on the
Awesome.
YouTube. Yeah, we did pop it up.
Nice.
Earlier.
Well, we appreciate you making the trip. We're really excited about all of the success that we hope you see as a filmmaker. Until next time, my name's Jerry.
And I'm Jacob.
Thanks, guys.